Let me introduce Susan.
Hey there, everybody. It's
Hello.
great to hear all the variety of professions represented. I took a few notes, like the private investigator, in case I need that one day. And I am really happy to be here today. I have planned a presentation for you about end of life care planning. The focus is you, and I hope that it startles you and that you will pass on the information that you learn here. Planning for end of life is only and always about you. You're going to see throughout the presentation that I underline the word you because I want you to make this really personal. How many of you have thought of dying, have thought of your end of life, and what do you want for your end of life? The next major area for you to think through with regards to your life coming to an end is that it's all about them. Them, first of all, is your family. When you speak to your family and you tell them what your desires are, even if they don't want to listen, you are solidifying the plan that you desire. You're also finding out who in your family is willing to walk along that journey with you, because not all family members will agree to the decisions that you've made. We're going to talk about how to designate those individuals, but mostly this is about you and this is about them. Each of you have unique needs. Some of you may already know you have a disease or an illness that's in progress. Some of you have complicated family issues and interrelational issues. Some of you are alone. The purpose of this presentation is to give you recommendations, not is to give you guidelines, not recommendations. If I work with you directly, I'll give you specific recommendations based on your needs. But in general, for a presentation of this nature, you need to realize these are guidelines and write down ideas and notes. If you are not clear about what to do and the thoughts about your end of life, please reach out. So what is end of life? It's the final stage of your life. Again, I want you to sit there and realize you aren't going to live forever. You will have an end of life journey. What is it that you want when that time comes? It's the end stage of some kind of illness. It might be a natural passing. It could be from a chronic illness, a degenerative disease process, or some type of emergency or immediate life-threatening condition where you and your family, that's them, and the doctors, that's them, are put on the spot to make a decision about upholding your end of life desires. End of life is also when there's no curative treatment. Some of us and many of my clients, the families say, I'm going to continue to pray for a miracle. I'm a believer and I believe that is true. However, as chaplain in Baptist DeSoto during COVID, there are distinct medical conditions where our organs begin to fail, that it is very uncommon for curative treatment to restore life. Therefore, when families are considering what is end of life, we define it as the point at which no more treatment will improve or cause life to continue. You need to be prepared. The first way, and most important, is for you to designate your representatives or family members. This is called the healthcare power of attorney. The healthcare power of attorney sets in place the individuals that you depend on to uphold your medical desires and plans. They have no control over what occurs with you, so they can't have this as a power tool to say, "Oh, mom, dad, you guys are failing, and we're going in your health, and we're going to now take over and make decisions for you." That is not possible. This is just an identification who the representing agent is for you. For me, with my family, I have my own choices. And sometimes for you, it may not be a spouse. There are conditions when a spouse would not be ideal as a representative. For family members, sometimes your family, they just cannot say, I support you in your decision. That's okay. You need to identify and make sure that who you select as your representative will uphold your decisions. Communicating your desires. I know most of you, as well as I, don't sit around the table and talk about, hey, well, when I die, I want this. Or when I can't breathe anymore, I want this. Or if I have a terrible accident and I'm in a coma, this is what I want. However, you do need to have those conversations with the individuals that you select as your representatives and those that are in your family and your friends, because you need people to hear with confidence what you want. Your friends may also be able to walk along beside you to listen to what your thoughts are, help you process them. But once you've made a decision, you need to let the folks in your life say, I know what she wants. In the legal system, we call that advance directives. Advance directives are also called living will. What an advance directive is, it's a document in writing that states that you want that you want to have treatment at all cost, at all possibilities to keep you alive, or you do not want to interfere and allow natural dying process. Therefore, you want the result of stating in writing what your end of life plan is, identifying who your representatives will be, creates peace at the end of your life. So let's talk about what your life looks like at the end of life. Having been a chaplain, working with folks with dementia and aging diseases where they are at the end of their life, which, by the way, I love that stage in people's life because it's so tender. It's the most vulnerable state. And I know many of you have been with loved ones who have been in that state, possibly even when they actually pass. So you have to put yourself in that situation. What By making these decisions, it creates peace in your life. Think about the times when someone has passed or in the end stage, and that's oftentimes when the long lost cousin might show up and interject their thoughts, and how discord can become the guiding factor. If you want peace at the end of your life, you will designate appropriate healthcare representatives, and you will put your desires in writing. Now, the healthcare POA, or power of attorney, is where you specify what your specific medical and healthcare decisions are. This would be treatment for ongoing chronic illness. This would be the decision that you want experts from Mayo Clinic or outside of our area. This will be where you specify that you would like to be involved with clinical trials to be able to pass on a legacy of your terminal illness to others for their possible treatment and um, and research for new solutions and treatments. The healthcare power of attorney for most folks also includes the statements of the advance directives and the living will in some type of paragraph type format, and a few supplemental statements about your position on your end of life, your advance directives, your living will directives in the healthcare power of attorney. That is the best way to kill two birds with one stone, so that your family, your agent representatives, and your medical team don't have to peel through 4 or 5, 10 pages of healthcare to look for what your desires are at end of life. The most important part about the powers of attorney is to have them notarized. I heard one or two folks say that you're a notary, the Spanish tax preparation. You do need to have your documents notarized. What that means is you go to a bank or a specialized notarized certified practitioner, and they will have two non-family members witness your signature, and they will stamp it. It's a legal stamp, so that if Uncle Joe shows up later and says, Mary told me that she's going to give me all of her wealth, or she wants me to keep her alive at all cost, then the notary is the seal that is a legal binding contract to state that what you have in your document must be upheld. Another piece that is really, really, really important, I put it in parentheses, in quotations, is the word or. Many of us have two people, sometimes three, in our family or our decision for healthcare representative. In certain situations, the way that it's worded, if it states, I want my oldest child and my middle child and whoever, the legal status means that the oldest and the next one must be together and must be in agreement with making healthcare decisions on your behalf. The contrast, which I recommend, and this is a specific recommendation, this is not a guideline, so go back and look at your powers of attorney for healthcare, or as you move towards getting your own. It should be stated or something to that extent, where our first child might be the first or primary agent. If that person is not available, let's say they've already passed, let's say they're in Europe, they have COVID, or they're unable to be available to uphold your medical health care decisions, the or allows to skip over to your second representative. So it would be, I desire for my first child or my second child to be my legal agent for healthcare and medical, and it's notarized. We found this out with my parents. They refused to get medical or legal power of attorney until they were in their late 80s. So this is me. I'm like, all right, I got my document. You need to sign it right now. Well, it was a friend lawyer who put it together. The friend lawyer said, my oldest brother and me. What we found out is that meant both of us, who didn't live in the same city, had to be together when there was an in-face decision, or we had to be in total agreement. It was a big problem. So we had the lawyer friend change it to my oldest brother or me, and that allowed whichever one of us were in person with our parents to be able to make those decisions. So that is a very significant recommendation. It's sometimes written in ways that represent or, for instance, my first child, and if they're unavailable, my second child. That is the representation of or. Go and look and make sure that that's the wording in your document, and that you do have that for if you don't have your documents together. Now, the use of the healthcare power of attorney, it's only if so this is your power of attorney. You've written your power of attorney, you have your first or your second to represent you if you would not be able. That is incapacitated. The incapacitated means you are physically, mentally unable to make a decision on your own. So let's say you have a form of dementia, and you're unable to make wise decisions, but you're in an end of life condition and you now have a new illness that's causing you to be uncomfortable, and your power of attorney, your POA says that you want to allow natural death and you do not want to have intervention of any kind. So then someone, the doctor says, hey, how are you doing? Fine. We would like to start doing kidney dialysis because your kidneys are failing. Would you like that? In a decision to allow natural death, that person, if they were incapacitated, would had made a decision not to pursue treatment for additional terminal illness. However, if a person is not of sound mind or able to make the wisest decisions, they may not uphold their own wishes and say yes to additional treatment. Some of you may have experienced that and you question it. However, they still have the capacity to make a decision, even if it is not the best decision. I've had folks, parents, who have said, I want every intervention. I want to live at all cost. And it was just heart-wrenching because they were making poor decisions, saying yes, yes, yes. And none of it was improving their life. None of it was going to stop a terminal illness. And it was very traumatic for the family to keep seeing them linger on unnecessarily. Therefore, if your loved one, if you can make a decision, wise or unwise, your agents cannot override your decision. The advance directive, within it, there are usually statements such as DNR. That stands for do not resuscitate. Do you know that that may not be the case when you're at end of life? Some terminal illnesses, cancer, any kind of dementia, there are other conditions that breathing occurs until the last breath. Some conditions, COPD, pneumonia, maybe COVID, breathing is the only way a person can sustain life. So if you have a power of attorney that said in the past, DNR, do not resuscitate, I urge you to go back and think through, what does that mean? For most folks, it means don't interfere in my dying process. Don't keep me alive if I cannot thrive and if I cannot live. In other words, you've heard the folks on the other side, you've heard people say, pull the plug. Pull the plug means discontinue oxygen, discontinue resuscitating so that a person can naturally pass. Many times a person is plugged in and using modern technology to continue to live when in fact there's no medical evidence that they can continue to live. So as chaplain, it's been confusing with families because as believers, we're saying the Lord can intervene, and it's true. So the truth is, you can remove resuscitation, you can remove oxygen, and if the Lord desires you to live, you will continue to live. It's amazing. God designed our bodies to live, and they will live no matter what. So we do have to look at DNR. What do you mean by that? This is your end of life. Do you mean keep me alive at any cost using any modern technology, including oxygen to keep me alive? Or DNR, do not resuscitate, do not interfere with my dying process. The next portion that I strongly recommend is no treatment for new health conditions. So here's what that means. Let's say you went into the hospital for X, and then you developed pneumonia when you were in the hospital, or you came home and you developed pneumonia, and then pneumonia moved into a bronchitis, and then pneumonia, let's say you got COVID or RSV on top of it, and then you were literally unable to breathe. So now we've got to do not resuscitate. However, your initial reason for the end of life condition might have been dementia, or it might have been cancer. And then you develop a new illness that if it were treated, it would not change the outcome. So if you're dying from dementia, if you're dying from any other condition where your organs are failing, and let's say you get an infection of any kind, and the hospital, normally that's where you would be, or the medical professionals would want to treat with antibiotics, which is the normal treatment. So look at the word treatment. Treatment means cure. Hospitals are designed to cure. Doctors' roles are to cure. If you already had a terminal illness that could not be cured, then the question is, why would you treat new health conditions that in the curing of them would not affect the change of the outcome of your original reason for the original health condition leading to death? Therefore, if you state in your medical power of attorney, no treatment for new health conditions, or treat me for all health conditions, it's your choice. But you need to decide, do you want treatment for new health, or do you not want treatment for new health conditions? Let's talk about the end of life. What are your options for care? And I'd like to be able to help you understand the benefits and differences between hospice care and palliative care, and urge you to take advantage of both of these very early as you understand that you are in an end stage of illness with no cure, an end stage of a degenerative disease, Parkinson's, dementia, any of the dementias, or any other health condition, cancer, any other health condition where you're positive, where the doctor is saying your organs are failing you and there's no more cure, no more treatment, that is end of life, which we talked about. At that point, it can be diagnosed that there will come a time when your life will conclude. That is the period of time to be looking for hospice. Hospice is a medical, hospice care is only obtained by a medical diagnosis, meaning your doctor determines that you cannot continue, that there isn't any treatment. So that goes back to your advance directive. If your advance directive says, I want to die naturally, and your diagnosis is you will not live because there's no more treatment, then look, you've got a contrast there. You need to follow it all the way through. If you want to allow natural dying, then you want to seek the service of hospice as a medical diagnosis. According to Medicare, it has to be approximately 6 months. However, I have to tell you, folks, it is usually about a day or a week when people call hospice to help them with your loved one dying. That is not even necessary because you're not utilizing the benefit of hospice. It is when you know for sure that this is about you, are projected not to live. That point is when you're going to call on hospice. And remember, your end of life wishes, assuming that if they were, don't interfere in my dying process, don't treat me for new illnesses, that will be months before your body concludes. So therefore, call out to hospice. It's a medical diagnosis that your doctor will support. The earlier the better, allows you to stabilize and address other needs. So here we are, we talked about that we are at end of stage, and then we develop an infection. When you develop an infection, that is other needs. So other needs means if I have hospice and I'm stabilized, and then I develop another illness that needs to be treated, then they may treat it for pain. So think about when you have an infection, there's normally pain involved with it, and sometimes an antibiotic is warranted to be able to uh, the pain is uncomfortable in the dying process, and so an antibiotic would be a good treatment, where it isn't a treatment for producing life, but it's a treatment for regulating the new needs that you have. Hospice, what most people don't realize is that hospice provides guidance for the grieving family. Many of us didn't know or don't know what is the dying process. What are the stages of grief? In my world, I'm very clear about it and counsel folks, but most people don't know. And so it's guidance to help people recognize these symptoms are normal. Those symptoms are not normal. It gives the family peace. Another misconception is that the day-to-day care is provided by the hospice staff. That is not the case. Please recognize that you and your family are the ones that are going to provide the daily care. That means if for eating, that means hygiene, that means bathing, dressing, engagement. Sometimes family members are exhausted by this point and can't do it on their own. Some are so bound by grieving that it hurts their heart to help their loved one with the day-to-day care. That's when hiring a professional care company, which you have in your talk shop membership, to be with their loved ones to provide those day-to-day care services. So realize that you are not you're not taking advantage, or let me say it like this: please take advantage of hospice when it is determined that there are no more treatments for you, so that you can have be stabilized, you can receive the comfort and guidance from their well-trained staff, and that you realize that you have to provide the daily care for your loved one. Now let's talk about palliative care. Palliative care is...
we've got another couple of minutes here, Susan, or so.
Okay, good. I'll finish up then. Palliative care is a service that's offered for hospice, but it is also without hospice. So let's say there's a cancer that is not terminal, but it's very painful. Let's say it's a kidney, end of kidney stage 4, and there's still quite a while before passing, and there's a lot of pain. The palliative care is used with a medical team, an interdisciplinary team, to optimize your quality of life. Hospice and palliative care occurs wherever you are: your house, the hospital, a care community, or a hospice facility. Now, how do we pay for it? Hospice is paid specifically by Medicare or Medicaid, 100% of it. For some, if you're not in the 65-year-old or you don't have Medicare, most private insurances will cover it. You need to make sure the kind that you use will also cover hospice if you know you already have a terminal health condition, and if not, you'll use private pay. Remember, your end of life journey is yours. This is about you. I really want you to stop and think about, what is it that you want? What I think about is, if I was in the pioneer days and I was in a log cabin, what would my end of life journey be? I know in my heart that I share with my family is, I want to be allowed to die naturally. AND is allow natural death. I need them to know, what does that mean to me and what kind of medical intervention I want, because end of life is about them. is about my family, is about my loved ones being going through the emotional journey to know that they're willing to walk with me when my time comes, knowing that them, the doctors, the medical staff, will do what I want them to do. I urge you, if you haven't thought about your end of life, that you do so that you can have peace in your end days. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan Crowson. And how do we contact you, Susan?
The best is to visit my website, which is geriatric-planning.com. You'll see the services that I offer, and I provide a 30-minute complimentary consultation for folks who would like to know if I can help them in whatever their journey is, end of life, transitioning from independence to partial dependence, where they can no longer stay in their home, need their home modified. You've got a company there that provides home modifications, or that they need to move into a community. I help them know exactly what community meets all of their needs.